turn this over to you.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. And I want to thank Enterprise for this opportunity to come before you and to present. Um, when I always start my presentations, I try to make a promise. So my promise to all of you is that you're going to walk away today with some actionable advice, things that you can use immediately in your business starting today. And the way we're going to get started is I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you and essentially show you the presentation. Here we go. And let me go ahead and put it into presentation mode. Oh, the wrong switch. There we go. All right. Scroll up, scroll up. There we go. So can everyone see the presentation? I just want to make sure we're good. And I also want to make sure the volume is good too. Can everyone hear me okay? I'll look at some shaking heads, yes. And can everyone see the presentation? You should see the screen, business strategy, resetting position, resetting. I gotta close this here so I can see better. There we go. Resetting to position your business for continuity. All right, let's begin. Here are the two objectives for us today. We're going to list the characteristics business leaders must possess to navigate the challenges presented in the COVID-19 marketplace. And number two, we're going to explain how to use an environmental scan to prepare a short-term and long-term plan for your business. So using environmental scan to prepare a short-term and long-term plan for your business. Why are these two items important? Because in this particular week, we're talking about inclusion and equity. These subjects this subject, I should say, is extremely important for business owners, whether you're a large corporate or a small business operator. And as you move forward, as you start to consider this particular trend, we're going to call it an emerging trend, you also have to figure out how it's going to be incorporated into your business. And the best way to do that is to come up with a documented strategy, a documented plan of action, so that if it's you know how you want to move forward. If you have others who are part of your management team, everyone is operating from the same game plan. So by having a plan in place, it allows you to document your strategy, have continuity and a consensus so that you can move forward and be successful with this plan of action. So to get us started, how I'm going to do this is that we're going to start off with a question, and I call it a framing question. The reason why I use a question is that a question is a powerful tool for a leader. And you can do the same thing in your business. Because with a question, when a question is presented to an audience, the listener immediately has to suspend or pause anything else they're thinking about in order to come up with a response. So in short, what we're doing is that we're clearing a pathway for new knowledge and new information to be conveyed. And because we've cleared a path, it also helps with understanding. So you can understand the concept and then you can figure out how to use it in your immediate business. So let's move to the framing question. So what I'd like you to do, we're only going to take 5 minutes with this, and then we'll move into the body of the presentation. In this 5 minutes, we're going to take 2 minutes for you just to think about a response, and then I'm going to call upon 2 or 3 of you for your response. So don't be surprised if I do that. So what are the lessons you have learned over the past 8 weeks? And what are the implications for your future business strategies? So again, the question is, what are the lessons you have learned over the past 8 weeks? And what are the implications for your business strategies? So again, I just want you to take 2 minutes to think about it, and then I'm going to come to 2 or 3 of you and ask you for your response, and then we'll move into the rest of the presentation. So go ahead and think about your response. Okay, we have one more minute. And I'm going to move at a pace during this presentation, which should allow you to have time to take down notes and also to reflect on what's being discussed. I know at the end we're supposed to do a general Q&A, but if anything comes up, any questions come up as I'm going through the presentation, please go ahead and ask them, and I'll try to answer at that time, or I may put it in the parking lot until we get to the end, depending on the question and depending on where we are in the presentation. Okay, I'm looking at everyone. It seems like everybody's ready to go. So I'm going to see, anyone want to volunteer? Again, I want to just see if I can identify 3 people. Very short response, no more than 10 or 20 seconds. What do you think? What were some of the lessons learned over the last 8 weeks? Anybody?
Adam, this is Louise. I can say that I have learned the value of having a diversified business model and partnerships. It's given me a lot of extra strength, and also the scanning and looking for resources. I mean, that's what I've learned.
Well, Louise, I think you've looked at my presentation already. You mentioned the word business model, and we're actually going to talk about that. When you say you're happy that you have a diverse business model, what does that mean for you?
Well, I learned long ago, because solar is such a difficult, it's a nascent industry and with a disruptive technology. So people don't like you a lot in the established world. And in order to survive, my survival skills have become, you have to be diversified. So instead of just doing solar installation, we also do LED retrofits for commercial. So it's an allied but different kind of a business or aspect of sustainable energy that allows for a very different customer base. And so the things that hit solar will not hit LED, for example.
Gotcha.
So,
gotcha. Thank you. Thank you very much. Emmy, I saw your hand go up if you want to take off your mute.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, just thinking about the event planning business is very social. And it's, it's about putting a lot of creative work out into public social media. And one lesson that I learned was that companies that don't have a clear and transparent diversity, inclusion, and equity strategy appear to be not welcoming, so at least, obviously, I think that, I feel like that's a gut feeling, but it was confirmed, just kind of seeing what happened publicly in social media in the event and wedding world.
Excellent. And I'm glad you brought that up. So now this question has a lot in it. And one thing I'm looking for is what you just brought up. When we think about our businesses, we tend to think about it internally. We think about our products and our services, and we focus on those things. However, the business doesn't operate in isolation. There's a lot of external factors, or we call them external forces, that can impact your business. And then when we look at what's happened over the last 8 weeks, we've had 2 major ones. One is a health crisis. The second is what we now call a social justice issue. And so these have to be addressed because people are now raising their voices, especially when you look at the protests. They're raising their voices. They're asking business owners and citizens to be responsive, to hear their cry, to hear their needs. So as a business owner, when someone comes to you, especially when you look at millennials today or Gen Zers, they may ask you during the interview, what do you feel about this? How do you feel about Black Lives Matter? How do you feel about social justice? How do you feel? And you have to be prepared for a response with regards to that. How do you come up with a response? That's when you start to look at some of your outside subject matter experts. Maybe you want to go to your advisory committee, and if you have one of those, and talk to one of your advisors and get a sense of what you should say. Or maybe you want to talk to an HR professional, because there are some legal implications or some liability implications with that. How you say things, how you approach a response, but you do have to prepare for that. So that's an important lesson learned. I'll also share something else. I've been on many, many webinars over the last 4 to 5 weeks. And some business owners, as they go through this period, they're thinking it is their fault that they were not prepared for it. And what I've said to them, and they've even said to themselves, you got to remember, this is an outside force. These are, no one knew COVID was coming. Who could have ever imagined that every industry in the country, every industry around the world will be forced to pause for almost 2 months, if not 2.5 months, and then be asked to restart. That has nothing to do with your management decisions of the past, has nothing to do with your style, management style, or your leadership style. It is just an outside force, an outside factor that is now impacting how your business is going to operate. So now as a business leader, you have to now flip the script and figure out how you're going to respond. I'm going to move forward so we don't lose too much time here. So how does the world see this event? We can open up a newspaper and you'll see headlines like this: worst crisis since the 30s, no end in sight. You may see the Great Depression, not quite. You may see financial crisis enters new phase. You might see behind closed doors, warnings of calamity. If I just sit down and I read these newspaper articles every day, I would say to myself, why am I in business? Why should I go forward? I should just stop today. There's no hope. The good news in every one of these is that I'm still here and you're still here and you're still surviving. Why do I say that? Because each one of these headlines comes from 2008 during the financial crisis. And at that time, I was a real estate broker working in my family's real estate business, and the entire market came to a halt, just the real estate market. And for a real estate agent and broker at that time, we're looking around and say, what can we possibly do? Our lives are over, our businesses are done. But if we're thinking about the long haul, if we're thinking about the long term, we realize that this is just a moment in time. And if I am committed to my business, which is the most important thing here, if I am committed to my business, I have to come up with a plan of action to address what I see before me. And here we are, several years later, I'm still alive, you are still alive. And so why am I bringing this up? It's because you're going to be bombarded, and you are bombarded with tons and tons of information today, coming from newspapers, coming from subject matter experts being interviewed on television, coming from other business owners. And you're going to have to figure out how to siphon through that information to come up with a plan that's going to be relevant for your business. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Is there a tool that will help me decide on what's relevant for me and then decide how to move forward? This is a great quote. This comes from a book called Good to Great. If you've never read it, since we were talking about resources over the last couple of days, this is one of those resources I would put in my library. The quote is, never confuse faith that you will prevail in the end. If we change the word faith to passion, because a lot of people say, well, if we have the right amount of passion, we'll be successful. Well, look what the quote says about that. Never confuse faith or passion that we will prevail in the end, which you can never afford to lose, which means I have to have the passion, I have to have the motivation, right? With the discipline to confront the most brutal acts of your current reality. So what they're saying here is that I need to have this faith, I need to have this passion, but I must also have discipline. And that's where the plan comes into place. I must have the discipline to face these realities. COVID, social changes, new laws and new regulations, new environmental pitfalls. I have to have the resolve and I have to have the discipline in order to address these challenges. So what do we have to do? And here's the first bullet point. We have to learn about certain characteristics I need to possess, or certain characteristics I need to adopt as we go through this period of time, as we come out of post-COVID. Where do these come from? Again, from many of the webinars that I've sat in on. First, we need to be agile. We need to be nimble. We need to be flexible. We need to realize that what we've done in the past may or may not work right now. So I have to be willing to change on a dime, if necessary, in order to address a customer's need, in order to address an employee's need, in order to do what we're doing today. I heard Lori mention, I have a customer coming in, don't want to wear a mask. Well, I gotta be ready to address that, and I gotta be prepared to handle that. So that I preserve my business, I also protect my other customers, and I also protect my employees. So I gotta be agile. What else do I have to do? I have to rally around economic solutions. So what does that mean? PPP is a perfect example. I knew many business owners that never applied for PPP because they said, I don't know if I want the money, don't know if I need the money. Well, in this particular case, it's a unique situation. Maybe this money could help bridge my current situation. Well, PPP is coming to an end, but guess what? Other municipalities, other state governments are putting together other programs to support business owners, to help you lower your costs. Are those programs that I need to sign up for? So that's what we mean about rallying around economic solutions, support programs that could help you in your local community. What else would I need to think about? Can't be afraid to act fast and to adapt. It means I may not have perfect information, but if I have accurate information, I need to go ahead and act upon that in order to keep my business sustainable. Bet on your instincts. All of you have started a business. Imagine when you were back on day one, when you first started your business, you didn't have all the answers. You had a good idea, you had a good concept, and you said, I can move this thing forward. Well, what did you do? You used your instincts, you used your past experiences, maybe from a corporate relationship when you worked in corporate, or maybe you worked in nonprofits before, or maybe you just had a family member who had a business before and you used that past knowledge, those past experiences, and that became part of your instincts, and that allowed you to move forward. So this is a time when you have to rely on some of those instincts. You got to follow emerging trends. What does that mean? Everybody's on Zoom. We're on Zoom now. If you were afraid of technology in the past, you got to dispense of that fear, and you have to move forward with this new trend of engaging your customers and engaging your employees through this new medium of Zoom. Working from home, being willing to change some of your HR policies to allow your employees to work from home. Those are emerging trends. New discussions around equity and diversity. I never looked at this before, never thought about it before. Well, maybe I need to start looking at magazines that deal with this. Magazines like The Atlantic, magazines that talk about social trends and social trends as it relates to economics. So I need to be aware of these emerging trends and start to learn and practice new practices of doing research around these areas of interest. What value can I add or bring to bear for my customers? A question I need to ask today, because guess what? Your customers have also been impacted by COVID. Their businesses could be suffering. So I need to think about, how can I help them succeed? Maybe by doing that, they'll look at me differently and see me as a valued partner and not just a supplier. So changing that relationship to a point where they value me, they value my business, they value my employees. So really going out and figuring out what I can do to help my customers be more successful, to survive this period of time along with me. So those are the characteristics that people are talking about today that you as leaders need to adapt and need to adopt as we go through these next, let's say, 5.5 months, this short-term period. So I've given you these characteristics, and I keep saying we have to have this discipline. Well, this discipline, at least the way I advise my business owners, is to say, you want to document this. You want to go ahead and put down a plan of action. And many will say, well, how do I start? I'm not a great writer. I don't know how to organize all this information. Is there some filter I can use? Is there some tool I can use to sort of narrow my thinking so I can make the plan actionable for me? And there is. And it breaks up into 3 areas. One is what we call assessing your business purpose. One way of looking at that is, why does my business exist? Why am I here? What am I here to do for my customers? The next one is examine the business model. We heard that phrase earlier. Examining the business model means I'm looking internally and I'm understanding how I conduct business day to day. I think about my operations and I try to think, am I efficient? Meaning, am I using my resources the most effective way? Am I effective? Am I actually achieving the goals that I wish to achieve? Well, the first thing I have to say to myself, what are my goals? So this week, since we're talking about equity and inclusion, you may want to add a new goal there. What are my equity and inclusion goals for 2020 and 2021? Because we found if you don't state the goal, if you don't document the goal, you'll never pursue the goal. So while you have financial goals, you'll have operational goals. I think this is one time you need to add to your business model this goal of equity and inclusion. What does it mean for your business? And the last piece is I like to call reflection, but literally what it does, it pulls in all the information from assessing your business purpose, from examining your business model, and then you put it into your formal plan. So let's take a look at it. So what we call this tool, we call it an environmental scan. And what it starts off with, looking outside your business, looking externally. And so each one of these bullets may or may not apply to you individually. However, I want you to understand that each one of these bullets are really an action step. You literally could leave here today and apply one of these and say, I've now gotten a piece of information. So let's take a look at the first two. Account for competitors. Assess whether your position among competitors has improved. I just added these two bullets for this time period, for the period that we've just gone through. Why? Because every business has been impacted by this COVID situation. We've all had to pause. So your competitors have also had to pause. So wouldn't it be interesting to find out that the competitors that were blocking you from earlier clients, customers that you were going for in the past that you couldn't get because that competitor was in the way, maybe the competitor doesn't exist anymore. Now you have an opportunity to go for that client to provide a service to satisfy their need. So you may need to just take a look and say, are my competitors still there? Are they healthy? Maybe I can, in some of my business owners in emerging leaders classes, they've gone ahead and they've acquired the competitor. They've gone ahead and started negotiations with them because the competitor said, I'm out. Here, I'm going to sell all my assets. I'm going to sell you my customer list. I just got to go. I can't do this anymore. Well, guess what? Maybe it's an opportunity for you to move in and take over that business. Assess financial and operational stress of your customers. Go ahead and have that conversation with your customers. Find out how they're doing. They may not be returning your calls, not because they don't want to do business with you, but because guess what? They're suffering, they're challenged just like you are. And maybe if you change the approach, you say, hey, can we just go have a cup of coffee together, have a discussion? They may share with you, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. And maybe you can find a way to help them so that you can keep the relationship strong and keep that relationship moving toward a possible sale. Take a look at your market pricing. What is happening in your industry? Are prices going down? Are they holding firm? Are they going up? They could actually be going up because there's fewer competitors out there. There's fewer people delivering the services that you're delivering. So it may be an opportunity for you to get stronger revenues because pricing is actually going up and not going down. Let's go to this last one. Execute a public relations plan. Why do I present this? In many cases, most people just think about marketing excuse me, from the aspect of, I need to sell a product, I need to sell a service. But you can also look at marketing from a way of sending out a message to your customers. And what you would like to do in this case is let them know that you're still here. I'm just checking the time, that you're still here and that you still exist. And so that becomes a public relations effort. Sending out correspondence, using social media, letting them know that you're live and you're vibrant and you're here to serve them. To possible employees, you may have been laid off, displaced by your current employer. I'm looking for someone like you. I can use somebody like you. And you're sending that messaging out to let people know you're here for them. So it's taking a different approach to marketing, where I'm now communicating outward to the populace. I think I have a couple of chats. Let me see what we have here in the chat. Will I be sharing the PowerPoint? Yes, I see that someone asked that question. And
I said we will put the recording.
Yes.
Will put the recording this afternoon.
Perfect, perfect. All right, so let's keep going. The next one. Uh-oh, it froze here for me, sorry. There we go. Examining the business model. In this case, we're going to audit our practices and our policies. So here's where we're looking internally. We want to go ahead and rationalize the breadth of our product and service offerings. What do we mean by that? You may have 3 or 4 services that you offer. This is a time when you really need to think, which one of these brings me the highest margins? Which one of these has the highest profits for me? Because this is also a cash flow issue. I need to make sure I have enough income coming in so I can cover my basic or my essential expenses. So maybe I need to go ahead and take a look at those services and make sure I'm working with those services or I'm promoting those services that have the the greatest benefit for me. The other services, I'll go ahead and pause. I'll put on to the side for a moment. But before I can do that, I still have to go out and see what's happening with my customer base. That's why we did that external review. I still want to make sure I keep those services out there that the customers can use, but I also want to promote those heavily that bring in the highest margin. We'll skip down to cash flow management. I need to put in place a cash management discipline. I need to look at my inflows and really understand where my money is coming from, how it is entering my business, and also how it is exiting. There may be some services that I can go out and I can renegotiate with my suppliers and maybe lower my costs by renegotiating the contract that I have with them. Remember, even your supplier has some issues. They don't want to lose their customer, in this case you. So maybe it's an opportunity to go in and renegotiate terms of your agreements so that you can lower some of your costs, improve your cash flow. The last point down here, assess your financial and operational risk. Contractual commitments. Do you have any contracts out there, again, that are causing you great stress, that have high cost implications that you may want to go in and, again, see if you renegotiate? There's also another opportunity where you may want to outsource. Look to your fellow business owners. Maybe someone's out there who's doing a particular activity that your business needs. They do it in such a way that they actually do it at a lower cost than you can. Maybe it's an opportunity to form a little joint partnership or a joint agreement for just a short-term period, maybe for the next 6 months, maybe for the next year, and come together where you can work together in this short-term partnership to keep the business alive and keep it sustainable. So again, looking internally, talking to your advisory committee, talking to maybe a consultant on some very focused and specific items that will help you troubleshoot so you can keep the business sustainable. Last but not least, you have the information from outside, you have the information from inside. Now you go ahead and you move to the reflection point of going ahead and putting together your plan. When I talk about the plan being short-term, I'm literally talking about the next 5 months, taking us out till 2020. That's a tangible period of time. You can sort of see what's happening right now, what the fall may look like based on conversations that are out there in the marketplace right now. So you put together this short-term, very tactical plan. But then what I also want you to think about is long-term, looking out 18 months. And think about where I want to position my business. Now, all of you may say, I can't even see tomorrow. So Adam, how can you get me to look forward? Well, what you can do is actually use research. You can look and read in newspapers. You can go to magazine articles, such as magazines such as Forbes or Inc. magazine, or even looking at the Wall Street Journal or New York Times, and look at what they're saying the future may look like for businesses, or what they're saying about your particular industry, what that industry may look like in 12 months. They're telling you, they're sort of giving you that crystal ball. And if they're 70% right, it is better to at least move in that direction so that you're moving with the trend, right? You're moving in the same direction that others in your industry are moving in, and you're positioning your business for the future. So use those outside sources to help you sort of get a picture of what 2021 may look like. So you'll say, man, Adam, these are good bullet points, a lot of action items here. It's going to generate a lot of data, a lot of information. How can I filter it down? How can I bring it down to something that's tangible for me? And this closes out the presentation. We will end where we started. I started with a question, and guess what? You can use some guiding questions that'll help you put together these plans. So there's 7 of them, just 7. The first one, how long are you willing to sign up for? How long are you willing to sign up for? Very interesting question. Again, came from this Inc. webinar that I attended. What the speaker was getting at is, what are you signed up for your business? Is this business a legacy business for you? You want to pass it on to your children. Therefore, you have a long-term vision for this business. Is it more intermediate, where you're saying, I want to take this business, build it to a point where it's worth so many dollars, and I plan on selling it? Or is this a business where, hey, you like what you're doing, and you like moving, and you like pivoting, you like changing directions. So therefore, the business is moving to the left right now. I'm willing to move it to the right short term and see what comes about. Well, what have you signed up for? What do you want this business to be for you, for your family? What defines this as a business? This is the value proposition question. What am I promising to my customers? How do I want my customers to see me? What are the lessons from prior strategies and implications for our future work? In the past, you applied strategies that may not have worked. Maybe today, those strategies, slightly modified, may help you be successful today. So what strategies do I need to apply from the past that may work for me in the future? Or what current strategies do I have in place today that I may need to tweak or modify? How do we deliver on that promise? How do I set up my business to deliver on the promises, letting my customers know I'm here for you, I'm not going anywhere. So how am I going to set up the business to make sure that happens? How am I going to fund it? How am I going to manage it? Have risks and costs been fully and frankly analyzed? The key word here is frankly. This is a time when you can sit down with your accountant if you've never done this before, and we found this in our classes. Many people really don't look at their financial statements. This may be the time where you really want to learn your financial statements, learn how to use them to help you manage your business. So sit down with your accountant, sit down with a financial advisor, maybe your banker, or a consultant in this case, and just spend critical time understanding these financial statements so you can use it to better manage your business. Are there partnerships I can leverage? We've already talked about that. Can I sit down with another business owner and work together in a joint agreement? Can I sit down with my suppliers and create a partnership relationship with them where we can work a different type of contract that allows for both of us to succeed? Does this course of action advance my interests? And last but not least, are we moving toward the goals that I've set? So I got to have formal goals out there that are going to help me move forward. All right, so I'm going to close out with a final quote. Our goals can only be reached through a vehicle of a plan in which we must fervently believe and upon which we must vigorously act. There is no other route to success. Pablo Picasso. So Pablo, an artist, knew the importance of having some type of plan, because in that plan are the goals that you're striving toward. And these are goals that you believe in, so you're working toward them. You're working toward them with passion, and you have to vigorously act. And that goes back to our earlier quote. You got to have that discipline, even when times are rough. You got to have that discipline to say, I'm going to act on this plan and move forward. So that's it. That's all I have for you. So any questions or comments on the presentation? I know we have a couple of chats out there, so I'm going to stop talking. How are we doing on time? Yeah, we got time for questions. Yay. So let me turn you back. There we go. Open up, everybody. All right.